Welcome to Green and Gold FC. We are reviewing this week's grand final of the Australian Championship, and I'm very privileged to be joined by Marko Jesic from Marconi Stallions. How are you going, Marco?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Fantastic. So I want to give a bit of background to yourself so we get to know you and your club. So can you tell me about some of your early days? So I believe you played for Australia as an under 17, under 20, and an Ollie. Can you take us through those days?
Um, Look, obviously, I played at, like you said, Marconi Junior. I played as a White City as a local club, Serbian local club with my juniors. Then I went to Marconi Stallions. Was there from 12s to 14s, and then the youth setup was a bit different to how it is these days with all these academies. The pathway to, I guess you call it success, was Institute of Sport, which we have here back in our neck of woods. And that was the best players of that age group from 15 to 16-year-olds. The next pathway was the Australian Institute of Sport, which I believe football doesn't have a program anymore, from my understanding. And then from there, I got the chance to go to Newcastle just where I was there for about 6 years, I believe so. Um, and I had a stint overseas in Hong Kong for a year, but um, with Hong Kong, everything being on AstroTurf, it was like playing on concrete, so it wasn't good for the body. And left after a season. They had a year left on the contract, but decided to come home instead. And obviously was at Rockdale for a season and a half. And then for the past 10 years, I've been at Marconi. And obviously during that time, I represented Australia at the 17s and 20s and 23 levels. Yeah, so it was I guess, exciting career as a junior, and obviously in that sort of a early professional career. But I had a lot of injuries as well at the same time. I had three knee reconstructions from the age of 17 to 19 as well. So year after year after year, which sort of a bit of a setback, but that's a part of the game. You got to bounce back and then continue and strive for success and not dwell on the past and as much as possible.
So if you allow me to dwell on some of the little bit of the past, the you were there just as we're starting to transition into Asia, right? We went from Oceania into Asia. These were some of our first tournaments. You might have overlapped with Ange Postecoglou. Did you overlap with Ange Postecoglou for under 17s?
Yes, it was the under sevens. I think we were 15, 16-year-olds. We had a couple tournaments that we played on the Ange Postcode, correct? Yeah.
How much of a shock was it, just how hard it was qualifying through Asia?
Look, it was like you said, it's something new, as you just said, the transition from Oceania to the Asian, and playing against countries that we normally haven't played, which were something new, but at the same time something to look forward to. And it was obviously the powerhouses of Asia, you know, Japan, have been and still are. South Korea as well. They were they were all good as well at that age group. And even we've had stints against Vietnam. Um, I guess majority of the Asian countries like at that younger age were something different, but they're still good at the same time. Obviously, there's most games we did win, but it wasn't convincing wins that you would think against um, us being a higher nation compared to a lower nation. But the level wasn't far from each other. It was something that we knew that what we had to do to progress into the obviously Asian Cup and the qualifiers, and even once we at the Olympic qualifiers and all that. Against other Asian countries. Well, I don't think we didn't qualify for that. For 20s World Cup we did, but for the 23s we just missed out for making the Olympics.
Yeah, it's been it's still 20 years. It's been quite a shock just how I remember going from thinking that we'd walk through Asia when we transitioned, just like we did over the Oceania minutes, and just finding just how hard it was. What
Mm.
was it like being coached by Ange during that time? Obviously, he's become a very famous coach. Uh, did he impact your career at all at that age?
Well, with Andrew, only had Andrew, I think, for a few camps before he moved on. But 'cause I think he was at the time he had the 17s and 20s. He was in charge of both. both age groups. And like Mo said, he was to himself, kept to himself, quite quiet, but he expected and demanded a lot at training. The way he played, the way he trained, there was no difference. And you know, every time you stepped on the pitch, training or game, you have to give 100%. And he didn't hold any prisoners. Um, but that was good. Like as a young person to go into camps or training sessions like that, you can never go in there not thinking that your spot isn't on the line, or you got something to fight for, something to play for. And we all knew that we had to fight for one position. How many players were there? There's only 11 spots available on the pitch, so as much as your mates as well. But once you're on the training pitch, there are no mates. You're fighting for position. So he had that culture instilled in the camps, which you can't go and say it's not good. It is a good culture to have. And like I said, from 23 players, there's only 11 positions available.
So you're pretty prolific for your position for all of our youth teams. I think 3 goals for the Olyroos, 5 goals for the under 20s, and can't remember how many under 17s. Are there any goals which bring back good memories and stand out to you?
There was one we played as a friendly. I can't remember. I think it might have been in Vienna. We played him here in the Blacktown Sports Blacktown Sports Ground, where just across from where the Wanderers are training. And we had a quick free kick and I was about 30 yards out. And I think Mitch Nichols passed the ball to me, took a touch, and I just drove this thing as hard as I could and just moved in every direction in the air and went top corner. I've got a video of that somewhere. That's um, probably one of the best goals scored really in my career when you think about it. Besides the one that I scored, my first goal in the A League, but that's probably that one sticks to mind.
So things weren't working out at Newcastle Jets. You had quite a few injuries, and then you moved to Marconi. And the first year you're there, I believe they get relegated. So, were these dark days? How did you cope with some of the tough challenges of those era?
Well, Marconi moved after Newcastle. I went to Hong Kong first. Um, I was there and then I was there for a season, and then a season and a half I was at Rockdale. So it was probably like 3 years later, 3 to 4 years later. Um, but when I found out when Marconi got relegated, obviously I live around the corner from Marconi, um, and I played for Marconi during my junior years from 12s to 14s. Um, and I guess as a challenge, um, to go to a club with the rich history that it has, you know, how many Socceroos played for Marconi, how many greats played for Marconi, um, and I'm like for a club to be in that position they were. Obviously, didn't see it right for me because it was a club that I supported when I was young. And myself and my two other mates, Mirjam Pavlovic and Sean Marini, decided to go there to obviously help the club to get back to where they deserved. And I think it was within our second season we got the club promoted back to MPL1, been there since.
So you mentioned the famous youth development of Marconi, and you went through that system yourself. Is there just something in the water, Marconi? What do they do that's different? They've produced Harry Kewell, of course, most famously, but even Christian Vieri was there for I think a couple of seasons, not very long. But
Yeah.
so many Socceroos, and even today, Volpato went through there, Matt Ryan went through Marconi. What do they do? Is there something different about how they approach youth development?
Yeah, I guess it all depends the people that are in charge, and obviously Marconi being Marconi, the powerhouse of Australian football. Um, Everyone wants to be involved. Everyone wants to have their name each into the record books and being a part of a massive club that what it is. And when everyone mentions Marconi, everyone thinks of the palace and the big soccer ball at the front of the stadium. That rings to everyone's mind, and that's the first thing that comes to mind. And again, like talk about championships they won. I think they've won 4 NSL championships, and the club being that it is with all the facilities that it has, I think no other club in Australia has, and that's A-League clubs as well. So, and everyone wants to be a part of it. So you want to have the best coaches want to go there, the best players want to go there, and obviously to make a mark on the club and obviously progress to something bigger and better. I guess it speaks volumes there.
So let's talk about your time at Marconi. You've been very prolific. I think you're up to 112 goals from just over 200 games, like more than one goal every two games. Is there something about Marconi's style which suits you, or the coach's vision, which has really helped you work there, that really got the best out of you, or is it the clean bill of health?
You say it's a bit of both. You know, looking after myself and doing the right things, and obviously the way that Sepa plays, and obviously I've always been a striker myself anyway, so I've always grown up and had an eye for goal, in the round the box. You know, um, being a goal poacher is also, it's a striker sense. You either have it or don't. But yeah, I don't know how many goals I think I'm closer to 150, and I'm pushing 300 appearances now for the club. Um, so
Wikipedia's
there
wrong.
is, yeah, I think Wikipedia is wrong, yeah, but yeah, look, like I said, I've been there for 10 years, and like I said, pushing 300 games, and I mean, it's my job at the end of the day to score goals. I'm a striker. I've become more as a attacking midfielder lately, but that's what you get paid for. That's what the people who play in those positions get paid to score goals, and if you're not scoring, you're assisting in a certain way. But I think my attitude sort of changed in the last sort of few years. It's more about winning. It's more important. It doesn't matter who scores and who doesn't, as long as the club um, gets. We talk about trophies as much as possible, and we want to win silverware as much as you can. And obviously, I'm sort of towards the end of my career, so I want to get as much as I can before hang them up. Even though I don't like talking about it, I don't see myself hanging up anytime soon. But yeah.
So let's talk about Marconi's journey to the grand final. It's been a bit of a rocky one, especially the last group stage match. But you guys have seemed to have righted the ships with two very impressive knockout performances.
Look, I think everyone's still talking about, that sort of nervy last game of the group stage, and um, how close we were from being knocked out. Um, it was a bit of a reality check, but you know, we we'd done enough at the start of the first 5 games to sort of have one footstep, into the quarterfinals, and um, we sort of did leave it a bit, shaky towards the end of that game against Wollongong. But things happen, and God was on our side that day, and obviously didn't allow him to score right at the end. But um, in saying that, look, we've shown what we can do throughout the tournament, but also throughout the NPL season, what we've done the last few years. And in saying that, a lot of people have written us off. No one's really given us an opportunity or a chance. And even at the start of this championship, you know, they were talking about Heidelberg and Avondale and South Melbourne and Apia, but our name wasn't mentioned once until after a few games, after we beat South Hobart and Wollongong. They started talking about us as contenders, and then they wrote us off again after the Wollongong game, and then after the Apia game, they're talking like we're contenders once again. So I mean, you don't know what to hear and who to go for and what to say, but we know what when we do our job, and we work together, what we're capable of, and we're not worried about what other people are talking about. It doesn't affect us, and we just go about our own business.
So was there any thing said by the coach or in the dressing room amongst the boys to bounce back from that 4-0 loss? Or was this one of the things of bad day, let, let it be behind us and let's focus on the next game?
Look, it was a bit of both, but it was a bad day. Look, everyone's allowed to have a bad day. Obviously, it didn't look good considering it was the last game, and we're one goal from being eliminated from the tournament. But I think it was a bit of a like reality check at the same time, for all of us, to saying that nothing's ever guaranteed. Um, you got to work regardless, and I guess that made us hungrier after the game, anyways. A, because of what most people were saying, that we're gonna have a chance against West Apia, and it could have been different, probably. In that game when a little bit over time, past that 97 minute, or what it was meant to be, but who's counting the 30 or so seconds that it went past, which it could have ended before the extra time and penalties. But in saying that, we knew what we're capable of, and we played up here. I mean, that was our 5th time we played them this year, and we beat them 3 times, and they beat us twice. So it's a rivalry that's been going on for decades, and one that everyone looks forward to in our competition, and everyone obviously around Australia is looking forward to that game when we played a few weeks ago.
So let's talk about what was a much better day, of course, was as well as beating Apia, you guys managed to have a very, very convincing performance against Morton. Now, granted, the scoreboard didn't blow out, but I think it's like 27 shots to two. It was like really, really lopsided. Not the funnest for me. I'm a Queenslander, but it was.
It
Uh,
was like a bit of a state of origin in New South Wales, West Queensland.
I preferred how the rugby league one went this year.
Yeah. No, look, it was, yeah, as you mentioned, I think we're in total control throughout the whole game. Look, it's tough conditions for both teams. You know, it's very hot, very windy. You couldn't judge the flight of the ball. 1 minute's blowing one way, next minute's blowing the other way. But you know, both teams had to play in the same conditions. But as you said, we had a lot of opportunities. You know, I guess the final decision or pass or that you know we usually make wasn't working, but you know we're persistent and kept going, and you know March obviously scored 2 goals now in 2 games that you know has got us through to the next round, and in saying that we defend as a team and we attack as a team, so you know no one gets the whole credit, the whole team gets it, and it's also good to see Marty as a young player to come through and obviously getting the headlines for getting us through, but at the same time, you know, the boys put in the effort. Could have been more, should have been, but I mean, another day could have been that as well. So main thing is we got through to the final, which we're playing this Saturday.
We've all seen games where one team absolutely dominates and they have chance after chance after chance, and then they get a sucker punch at the end. Is there something said at halftime to make sure that doesn't happen, to stay patient, stay focused, and not switch off?
Um, Look, that happened to us during the season. It was like one of those games where we dominated, and I think the other team didn't have a shot. Um, it was against Central Coast, and I think they scored a penalty and won the game. um, but I guess it's a mental thing. You know, we we're a fairly young squad. Um, taking if you take me out of the equation, it's a young squad. But the boys are mentally tough, and you know, when their minds on the job and they know what needs to be done, then no matter what's in front of them, they can um, overcome the hurdle, overcome the obstacle, and to get the result. And again, like I said, we'll just persist in that game, and we kept going, we kept trying. We didn't stop. We didn't stop the way we play. We kept playing the way we play, and we knew where the weakness would be, and we kept going. Obviously, it came in, and we got the goal. So for us, you know, it's always in the back of your mind that something can happen if you don't having all these opportunities, you don't put one away. You know, like you mentioned, they have one, and obviously can win the game. But again, look, we've been besides that 5-0 loss to Wollongong. I think we probably had the best defense in this competition. Um, so we know when we're on point and we defend from the front foot and we defend from the front line with that it's very hard to score against us. Um, but again, I think persistence is key with us.
So let's talk about this weekend's match, the big dance coming up. So South Melbourne and Marconi, probably the two biggest clubs in the NSL era, right? But I think they both won the grand final 4 times,
Yes, 4 times, yeah.
but they've never met. So that's just crazy. But sure, I presume there must be quite a bit of rivalry here, despite never having taken away a grand final from the other team before. Can you tell us a little about what that rivalry feels like to those in the club from Marconi's perspective?
Well, I guess you know, like as you mentioned, I think they're the only two teams that played every season in the NSL. And as you mentioned, they've won 4 finals each. So I guess that just in saying that there, that's the rivalry there. Um, you know, it's an opportunity for both clubs, obviously being back on the national stage, and obviously one to get one up on the other to make it 5 national championships. You know, that would be, and I guess the result in itself. And but the rivalry stands across this. It's been going on for, like we said, decades. Obviously, these old NSL clubs with the ethnic backgrounds. I think that's what football back in the day was all about. I think that's what, if I'm being honest, is what's missing in the A League at the moment. That pure passion from your fans. And we've seen that what's happening in the Oz Championship when the fans get behind their local clubs. We've seen that. You've seen the VPL, you've seen it in MPL as well. Um, what the fans show and what it means to the club. So hopefully get a good turnout, and and we get one over 'em.
So, indeed, if this would break the deadlock, this would be five national titles to four, and determine which is the best team of the old NSL clubs, and I guess
Yeah,
future chairman clubs. So it is something big to play for. And you also mentioned
exactly.
the ethnic element. Maybe this settles whether baklava's better or tiramisu's better. I don't know if you ever.
They're both good. They're both good.
So, so I don't know if you can share any specific plans you have to face South Melbourne this week. Do you guys? But maybe you can comment on whether you prepare much for specific opponents and look at what they do, or whether you just focus on what you guys do, get your game plan right, and try and perfect that.
I mean, we do look at the opposition and we see where some weaknesses might be or occur in their certain situations of the game. But in saying that, we try to focus on ourselves as much as possible. Um, we just make sure that that we gotta do well our jobs. Everyone worries about their specific job individually, and if everyone can overcome that and win their battles, and collectively we should have no problem. So for us, as long as we do our jobs, we do the 1%ers that's required that others won't do, um, then we believe that we have a strong chance of winning the game.
If you win, will it be on the back of defense or attack?
Um, Look, I think it'll be a bit of both, but obviously our defense is like I said, is quite strong. Again, going back to what I said, minus that Wollongong game, we had the best defense in the league, and even in our MPL league, I think besides one of the losses we had to Spirit, again throughout the whole season, we had the best defense in the league. The year before, the best defense in the league. So it's not it's not unusual, but it's not something that's happened overnight. We've been doing it for years. So again, going back to what I was saying, that if we do all the 1%ers that's required from everybody, then we've got a good chance of coming over the victory.
So, final question. So, I want to know what this means to the club and the fans and yourself. If you had a choice, I saw a poll basically which asked this question, and I'm curious about your answer. If you had a choice between a deep run in the Australia Cup, winning NPL New South Wales, a title there, or winning the Australian Championship, what would mean most to yourself and the club?
I think the Australian Championship, it's a no-brainer. I think one of my goals was when I first came to the club 10 years ago was obviously, we talk about where the club was, the history the club's got, and being one of the biggest clubs, if not the biggest club in Australia, to be where it was 10 years ago. And we talk about being back on the national stage. We're on the national stage now. We're in the final. So I'll take the Australian Championship over anything else. So for the club, it's a massive, massive achievement to get to where we are. But I think everyone's looking forward to this game, and everyone's looking forward to I'm not gonna say now, but like everyone's just looking forward to the game, and just hoping that what we do on the pitch, that what we've been doing, can carry on to the final game, and get us the victory.
And it would be really interesting to see New South Wales get the wood over Victoria in this in this final.
Yeah, everyone's been talking about the Melbourne teams. No one's talking about the Sydney team, so it would be nice to get in and give it to them.
Change the conversation. So
Yeah,
thank you so much for joining us. I don't want to keep you up too late because I do know that you have training all week in order to
as
prepare for.
long as we've got work as well. We're
Yes,
part-time footballers.
you guys have two jobs, so
Yeah,
doubly thankful. So
yeah.
thank you so much. So yeah, so please make sure you join us on the forum at greenandgoldfc.com. Also join us on Twitter, Spotify, and Apple. We are, of course, also on YouTube. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Until next time, that's all we have time for. It's bye for now.